You spent weeks thinking about it. Weeks. Turning it over in your mind at 2 a.m. in the shower, while driving. You considered every angle. You knew what you wanted to say. You knew why it mattered. And when the moment finally came, when you were sitting across from someone you trust, someone who said they cared, you took a breath and you said it. You said it carefully. You chose every single word. And they nodded. They smiled, that hollow smile that tells you they've already mentally left the room. And something inside you broke a little. Not because they didn't agree with you, but because they didn't get you. Not even close. If this feeling is familiar, if you've stood there mid-sentence watching someone you love look right through you, then this video is about to explain something you've been blaming yourself for your entire life. And I'm telling you right now, it's not your fault. Here's what nobody tells you about being misunderstood. The other person isn't stupid. They're not cruel. They're just arriving late to a conversation you've been having with yourself for months. Think about it. You've been living inside this thought. You've explored it from every direction. You've had the counter-arguments in your head at 3 a.m. You've already felt the weight of it, the possibility of it, the fear of it. You understand the nuance because you've lived the nuance. Then you open your mouth and try to deliver all of that. Months of internal processing in 90 seconds. And they look confused. So you think they're not listening. But that's not what happened. You started at the destination. They needed the map first. It's like this. Imagine explaining quantum entanglement to someone who's never heard of atoms. You're standing there, certain about what you're saying, unable to understand why they're lost. But you're not speaking their language yet. You forgot what it felt like to not already know. Here's the brutal truth about being intelligent or introspective. The things you understand so deeply, so obviously, you don't even remember learning them anymore. You've worn pathways through your mind so deep that the ground beneath your feet looks flat to you. But to someone who just arrived, it looks like a cliff. And you've been standing at the top, wondering why they won't climb up. But here's the part that cuts deeper. Even when they do hear your words, they're translating them through a completely different life, a different past, different rules. When you say, "I'm stressed," you might mean you're alive, wired, electric. Pressure is where you do your best work. It focuses you. But to them, stress means the room is closing in. It means shutting down. It means not being able to get out of bed the next morning. Same word, completely different universe. Your friend grew up in a house where money was always there. To them, saving is a choice, a preference. But someone else grew up watching their mother count coins at the end of the month. And for them, saving isn't a choice, it's survival instinct. It's written into their nervous system. Someone was praised as a kid for speaking their mind. They grew up loud, confident, unafraid. Someone else was punished for it. They learned to whisper, to watch, to survive by disappearing. Nobody chose this. Life handed it to them. The same way life handed you yours. And here's what breaks people apart. Nobody knows they're doing it. You don't. They don't. You both walk into the same conversation absolutely convinced you understand each other. You don't. You understand your version of each other. Every argument you've ever had that didn't resolve, that wasn't two people fighting about the same thing. That was two people defending realities the other person couldn't even see. Your parents couldn't understand why you couldn't just move on. You couldn't understand why they refused to even talk about it. Your friends slowly stopped texting back. You couldn't figure out why because they couldn't figure out how to tell you. That relationship where you gave everything, where you stayed up at night trying to understand them, trying to bridge the gap, and you still felt invisible? This is why. Not because anyone was lying, because everyone was telling the truth, from a world no one else was living in. Third reason. And this one is going to sound familiar because you've felt this exhaustion your whole life but never named it. Your mind moves at a speed most people weren't built for. You see connections. You're 3 steps ahead while everyone else is still processing step 1. You've already jumped to point 5. And you know this about yourself. You've always known it. But you've also spent your entire life watching people look at you like you're too much, too fast, too intense, too complicated. So you started wondering if maybe you were broken. You're not broken, you're just running on a different clock. And nobody warned you that clocks can't talk to each other. And sometimes it's the opposite. You try to explain something deep, something that took you years to understand, and they get it in 2 sentences. You keep going, you elaborate, you add layers, and now they're frustrated. Not because you're wrong, but because you couldn't tell they were already there. You were still explaining a door to someone who had already walked through it. Speed mismatch doesn't just cause confusion, it causes resentment. It causes people to leave. It causes you to shut down, to stop sharing, to decide, quietly, privately, that it's just easier not to try. The loneliest people in the world aren't the ones who are alone. They're the ones who stop talking. The invisible rules. Here's the one nobody talks about. The one that does the most damage in silence. You are carrying a set of beliefs so fundamental to who you are that you forgot they were beliefs. You think people want to grow. That's not a fact. That's your truth. You think honesty matters more than comfort. You think if you love someone, you fight for them. You think failure is just the price of trying. These aren't universal laws. These are the rules of your particular interior world, and you've been living by them so long that you enforce them on others without even realizing it. You've been in arguments where you weren't even arguing about the topic. You were arguing about which reality was real. Your mother didn't tell you she was disappointed, because in her world, saying it out loud would have made it real. Your friend didn't push back, because in their world, conflict means the relationship is over. Your partner didn't say what they needed, because in their world, needing things makes you a burden. They weren't being difficult. They were being themselves, inside rules you never knew existed. I thought you knew. That's the most expensive sentence in the human language. Nobody knows. They can't, because you never said it, and they never said theirs. You've all been living by rules written in invisible ink, wondering why everyone keeps breaking them. The thing beneath the thing. The deepest reason. The one that will sit with you long after this video ends. Most people understand your words perfectly, and they still miss you completely. Because you're never just saying what you're saying. Underneath every sentence is an emotion you couldn't name, a need you didn't know how to ask for, a fear you dressed up as an opinion. You say, "It's fine," and you mean, "I'm so tired of being the one who keeps it together." You say, "Never mind," and you mean, "I needed you to fight for this, and you didn't." You say, "I'm not mad," and you mean, "I'm devastated, and I don't know how to tell you without falling apart." The words were received. You weren't. This is the gap no one teaches you to close. School teaches you vocabulary. Nobody teaches you how to say, "I am afraid that if I tell you the real thing, you will love me less." Nobody teaches you that the sentence under the sentence is usually the only one that matters. And so you have entire conversations in code, both of you speaking fluently in a language neither of you can read. And at the end, you both walk away thinking you talked, when all you did was exchange sounds in close proximity to the thing you were both actually trying to say. You have never been too much. You've been too unheard for far too long. How you close the gap, for good. Everything you just heard, every gap, every mismatch, every invisible rule, it's real, but none of it is permanent. Here's exactly what you do about it. First, give the map, not just the destination. Stop starting at your conclusion. Before you share the idea, share the journey that led you there. Say, "I've been thinking about this for a while, and here's where I started." You're not dumbing it down. You're building the bridge they need to cross to get to you. That's not weakness. That's the most powerful thing a communicator can do. Second, enter their frame before you ask them to enter yours. Before you explain your perspective, get curious about theirs. Ask, what does this look like from where you're standing? Not to agree with it, not to surrender yours, but because you cannot build a bridge from one side. When people feel genuinely seen, not managed, not tolerated, but seen, they will walk toward you. Third, slow down to the speed of being heard. After every idea that matters, pause. Not for effect, for contact. Ask, does that land? Or, am I making sense? It feels vulnerable. It is vulnerable. That's the point. Vulnerability is the only frequency at which real understanding travels. Fast is efficient. Slow is human. Fourth, name the invisible rules out loud. Stop assuming your core beliefs are universal. Start naming them. Say, I'm coming from the belief that, or, for me, this matters because. You're not explaining yourself. You're handing them the key to your interior world. And when you do that, the arguments stop being about who's right and start being about who you both actually are. Fifth, lead with the feeling, not the argument. Before you make your point, say the thing underneath the point. I'm scared about this because. I need you to know this hurt me because. I'm saying this because I care about you, and I'm afraid of what happens if I don't. Facts inform people. Feelings connect them. And connection is what understanding is actually made of. You don't have to do all of this perfectly. You just have to start doing it honestly. One conversation at a time. One moment of real contact. In a world trained to keep everyone slightly out of reach. You were never hard to understand. You were just never given someone willing to try hard enough. People not understanding you is not proof that you're too complex, too broken, or too much. It's proof that real communication is one of the hardest things human beings attempt, and almost no one is taught how to do it. The people who do understand you, completely, quietly, without you having to perform or translate or shrink, those people are rare, and they are worth everything. Hold on to them with both hands. And for everyone else, you now have 5 ways to close the gap yourself. Because the truth is, you cannot control whether people understand you, but you can control whether you give them a real chance to try. That is where connection begins. Not in being understood, but in the courage to keep trying to be. If this found you at the right moment, like, share, and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, what's the one thing people always get wrong about you?